Welcome to the MBD podcast, the show where we dig into what's actually working or not when it comes to scaling businesses with people who've been there. And today's guest, special guest, he's been there, and I'll let him go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Jason, thanks. I appreciate you having me on your video podcast. I'm Gerard Mendoza, and in the industry of digital marketing, actually a number of different industries, but digital marketing specifically is what started and launched my quest to learn and quest to venture into multiple revenue streams, which is all ties back still to using the skills that I learned in digital marketing. Like I said, my name is Gerard Mendoza. I'm head of marketing of a mid-sized hosting company, and also own a number of different rental properties that I've learned to general contract and build myself, as well as affiliate marketing, domain sales, and ever learning person. So I think that's me for an introduction.
Awesome. Yeah, and
But
you're saying hosting? So piggybacking off that, in digital marketing, hosting is the core piece of being able to get your site to keep it up. What do you see when people are, and I see things where they don't even know who the registrar is or what a registrar is. Then you have hosting because they think sometimes hosting and registrars are the same. Where do you see people making mistakes when they're essentially looking for having their site leveraging a host, make in everything that comes with that?
I think now let's see. Let's talk about, like, I guess the everyday. If we're looking at a business, right, an everyday business, call it service based. Service based business are looking for leads. Companies like that have been burned. I think I had an agency. We grew it. So I think we had 14 employees at the height of it, bringing in, I think, 160,000 a month in revenue. And what I can tell you is a lot of those agency or those clients that we had were tree service companies in Austin, Texas. Currently I'm here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, but those services have been burned by big companies like Reach Local, for example, or allegedly in other type of like SEO type services. They've had the general population, I think, has had to learn to get up to that point by an error when it comes to their businesses and getting an online presence, right, and getting maybe leads or even a e-commerce style business. They probably had to learn by trial by error, I guess you can say. They figure out that they don't own certain aspects of their property, what they think online, right? So that was my experience, at least, hearing people and figuring out the importance of how do I go about owning my domain? How do I go about, getting setting up web hosting? Do I need web hosting? What am I going to do with this website? I'm really starting to think about that. And I think the third phase, if people don't kind of figure it out at that point, is they get to the, again, just of the general small business, the mom and pop, 10 million and less type of company in revenue. And then the third is figuring out, okay, we need to take control of this and invest money into this particular product of our online billboard, right? They start trying to separate themselves there from their competitors. The owner has, grown with the company and has grown into embracing technology, or has, children that have sparked that individual's interest, or the children are the ones that own the company. Who knows, right? But it's changed, and so now they're leveraging, the idea of we can do this ourselves. The tools are out there. There's AI that can help me, at least support. At least that's what I hear. Let me learn more about it. And they're comfortable with the computer to learn as quickly as possible. They're comfortable with ChatGPT, or at least get comfortable with it. Yeah, so I think it kind of brings in, and we'll see that change a lot rapidly, but what brings in these companies that have been burned, I think, at the beginning, and I think a bigger percentage than what you really think continue the, the quest as they grow, as their businesses scale.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like what you're saying, businesses, exactly what you're saying. Businesses need to be aware what they own when they get a hosting site and if they're helping. They'll say they provide these services. We do graphic design, we do marketing. And next thing you know, you don't own your site because they built it out. It's on their platform. You don't have access to their platform anymore because they have 2,000 page terms and conditions that within there will tell you you don't own this. And when you terminate contract, you got to go build your own website somewhere else. And you don't have assets, the phone numbers they may own as well too. So now this thing you've spent years branding your business with that number, and they don't allow you to port it out because it's there. So then they own that. And then what they're doing is they're taking your content, they're pointing links to their sites that are on. They're taking the phone number, they're forwarding these calls to someone else in the area that they picked up because now they're saying, hey, we generate 50 leads a week for a painter business. Oh, I want that. Yeah, I'll sign up. Sure. You build me a new website. All they're doing is plugging in their template. So,
that's it. Yeah, yeah. That they
yeah,
got that
I've
process down, and that's the value of that company, right? That's the value is that system, right? Or the system of how they can generate those types of
mhm.
sales so quickly. But they'll surely use those $100 coupons from Google to try to extend their runway. That's for sure.
$300 on ads. I know. You're like, no, that's not how it works. It's Google giving it to them. You can get it without them.
But hey,
I know.
we're
You drive me
generating phone
crazy.
calls. We're generating phone calls, right? So it's working. All right. That's it's
Drives me
the
nuts when I come across these companies, and then I get
right.
in a battle with them, and I try not to make the client uncomfortable because I'm pissed off that they've been taken advantage of, and this company doesn't care because they just say that's our business model and all that. And it's like, come on. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So definitely. So now they got hosting. What are things they should be looking for in a host when they go to purchase one,
Yeah, no,
purchase a service?
that's actually the next, that really is the next thing that that really goes towards the right foundation. It's almost a commoditized market. That's a fact, right? General web hosting is, you can look at it as a lot of these things, you can really look at them as a rental. It's like a rental, real estate rental space, right? You're renting space on a shared server, right? And on a shared hosting is typically the phrase that's applied to that. So that's where you're going to store, your words and your photos and such, and host the domain with that same company. But what you look for is to be successful is it's like the house analogy. You want to lay the right foundation, right? You want the support that's going to help you lay the right foundation. Those are the people or the 2x4s you put around for your forms, right? Um, you want for the concrete to set correctly. The foundation's everything. So the foundation's the type of site you're building in for the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish, and there's a variety of solutions. Again, depend on your on your intent, and that's really, I think, really critical to understand. If you have the opportunity, I think, to help people, or not you, but specifically just in general, to tell someone that's not really explored the hosting importance, the support is very important because it is a commoditized market, and the support is what's going to be there to help individuals that may run into a unique problem that they can't just figure out by watching YouTube videos. They need
Or
to
their
talk.
site goes down and they have no one to call.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
believe it or
seen
not,
that.
there's companies like that, right? It's not good, but that's what you need and so then you can figure out if you want a managed service, right? A managed hosting service of
Hmm.
some set, or a managed WordPress service, uh, you know, things like that. So it depends, right? How
Do
much
you
time.
find do you find a host that says they dedicate to WordPress has any more value than one that doesn't dedicate to WordPress?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's WordPress. Are you familiar with how to? Yeah, I don't know. These are things I'm giving you, some probably dropping some nuggets here that that's going to get me in trouble or not. But let's go with it. Why not? WordPress. Let's talk about Automatic, right? Is the company that owns that product. WordPress is great. I use it.
So do
I
I.
love I love WordPress, right? You know, from a digital marketer's standpoint, you have to donate to their foundation a lot of money before you could even start working with them, working and using any sort of affiliation with them. Even though they'll let you sell their products, you can't affiliate yourself with them, um, and
Interesting.
until you give them give them a good 5-6 million into the deposit of a foundation, and that's a strange proposition. I've been in many calls and I've heard that from 3 different companies. We've taken 3 web hosting companies through Endurance International Group. I was part of the team. That was the first marketing hire for the parent company, and we consolidated into a central agency, internal agency, I guess, if you will, for our subsidiary company. But they were all in web hosting, so I got a lot of years' experience in this particular vertical. And what I can say is, I don't know. It's just not. It's not how I would want to be. We just they're not. They're a great product, but they surely don't make it. They really shake down. I think, call it what it is. They shake down the people that sell their product. Luckily, it's that great that the consumer likes it that
So,
much.
which you say that sell their products. So essentially, WordPress, from what I understand, is a free CMS. So
And with the store inside of it.
with WooCommerce, are you talking about the additional plugins that you need to purchase? Yeah, yeah. I view WordPress versus Shopify. Shopify is a rental app
And then there's
store.
and the web hosting
Uh,
is not necessarily conducive to WordPress hosting. There's specific things that
okay,
the WordPress hosting is a different product as well.
right.
So that too, and they get a piece.
Um, Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so with that, we've got, you're building. Ideally, you want something that's catered more towards WordPress. You're building out on a WordPress site. You got your hosting, you got your WordPress site. You've got these pieces in play. You got your registrar where you're pointing to your hosting site, so that way everything comes up. Now, you've got this site built out. How would you go about finding the right developer or agency to help someone build out their website? What would be some things that you would look for to make sure that you're going to get out of it what you want?
So the
Because I've got
developer,
some horror stories. I had a client go to a company in Silicon Valley who was like, "Yeah, we'll build your site." They build their site. Their traffic dropped by 2/3. They didn't tell me. They did this behind my back. I go in there and I'm like, "You guys, you took away all the city pages." Their feedback was Google doesn't like city pages. You took away all the meta descriptions, titles. You got rid of all the headers that we had in place. You changed all the URLs without doing any real redirects. They just 301 a lot of them to the homepage, and
like
they're
every
telling
non
me I don't know
best practice, like whatever best practice is, just do the opposite.
exactly. But they had a good conversation. They were in Silicon Valley, so my clients were like, "Oh, they must be good because they're up there in in the Bay." So things that you see to look for
They learn
when
by error,
validating.
I'm sure. Those folks learn by error. I hope so.
They
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, they were my client. They learned and then got them back. We got a third of the traffic back, and then they wanted to come back faster. Then they're blaming me it's not coming back fast enough, and I'm just you guys did this to yourself. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, it depends. I mean, even if you said, I've been there. I've been with agencies, and I've worked for an agency for a couple of years. That's how I started. I think working in an agency was a great thing for me. It
mm,
gave me a lot of great work ethic on the
yeah,
computer, for the
a lot of
sake of,
insight.
yeah, you have to manage a lot, right? You do have to manage whenever you work for an agency. They're trying to keep headcount as low as possible. So, but when you're doing it on your own, you really want to try to provide what's a personal service that's the right thing for the client. They're not going to see one thing when you have to figure out, it's a hard realization. They're not going to see value the way you see the value in the things you're providing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll see there's just going to be some areas where you value it much more. Like, you don't understand how big of a deal this is, like how big of a win this is. They may not see it that way, right? they may see it as a lesser win. I had a client that wanted to be on the term tree service. Number one, no matter what, even though all our analytics, everything showed that that term converted so low, even though there was a jabillion searches. I say jabillion, but there, for the areas they service, there's, I think on average per month, 50 to 100,000 searches just in the Austin region, San Antonio. But that was the vanity term that I call, what I call a vanity term. He needed that. He wanted that. And I get the branding from it. He was doing other branding, we're starting to do other branding type of initiatives. But yeah, I mean, they don't value be number one on the right terms, on the intent driven terms, right?
Yeah.
So they can kind of get pulled a different direction, right? When someone comes speaking that language and just coincidentally speaks to what they want to hear, right? I want to be number one in this term that we know it's not by the data. It's just not.
It's an informational term, not a converting term.
Right. Yeah. Typically, well, at least that's what the conversion rate shows. Yes, exactly. So I don't know. We have to realize that the value that we provide them is not typically the value that they understand when it comes to whether it's consulting or providing the being their agency to a certain extent. And I'm sorry to hear that's how it worked out. That sounds like that wasn't a great client, the best of client, but I hope it worked out, in the end in your favor to help them and also continue the relationship. You just can't, but you just can't really guess what they want. And the educational part, sometimes they can't pick up on it. Sometimes they can. It's great when they can, but the parts that they can't, I think you kind of have to just move forward, right? And to find something they get excited about. Getting them excited about it is great. Now, they need to look and be taught about exciting new things that are coming along, AI features of some sort, and you related to saving money. Perhaps that's something that resonates with with a much bigger audience, right? Of people that aren't so savvy.
And then, so now you got your registrar, your host, you got your website built, you're identifying the developer. Now, what are some ideas that you would have for, say, a service-based company to come out and leverage marketing to start generating potential clients?
So what would have? So repeat that question. I want to make sure I understood correctly.
So, new company, got my website built. It's got no domain authority. I got no age. Trying to generate. We'll start with service, then do ecom. What marketing avenues would you start targeting to get awareness and clients digitally? We do digitally only.
Okay, so see that it's the simplified.
It depends. I know it depends.
There's a lot of assumptions. There can be some assumptions that need to fill in the lines there. But let's assume I picked up, it's a new company. It's e-commerce. There's details in there. I wanted to make sure that I understood. The domain, I'm assuming you said is new, so it's a new domain.
Everything's new. They got a core product, $100 average AOV. They're trying to get out there. They're trying to sell these things.
E-commerce basis, so we're side hustling this, right? So the patience has to be there first of all to provide.
It's not overnight.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not over a year either.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great to jump into paid and set it up as a ROAS type of service, or bidding and paid search. Perhaps that's a possibility, depending on what type of margins there's the projections have shown are going to be able to be run. Just on average, as a variable cost, on the gross margins or whatever. So, yeah, you don't need branding, that's for sure. What I explain it as is everyone knows the sales funnel, and when you look at these types of things, you have to look at the sales funnel. You really have to look at it upside down. Upside down sales funnel. When you start, you want to go after, and you're going to start advertising to get traffic to your site. You're not just going to get organic, right? So there has to be money set aside for that, assuming it's budgeted already. the sales funnel upside down from a marketing perspective is the people you're targeting people first that are intentfully searching or intentfully in a group in Facebook that show that they're interested in this kind of seeking someone, right, for this type of position or seeking these type of products, seeking these type of things. Like somebody's intentfully already seeking that. They're just
Mm-hmm.
looking to buy it, right? Your
Yep.
website has to be set up correctly so there's no holes, right? So the website has to be set up already correctly. That's the foundation that you've set, right?
Big
And
time.
you're not losing, so you're not, there's no leakage. Uh, from there, you're going into your middle area again. The funnel in an upside down fashion. Not, you really want to at that point you want to come in and retarget those folks. RLSA campaigns. Any non-converters. That are still perhaps in seeking, right? You
Mm-hmm.
want to give a more aggressive ROAS if possible, using smart bidding if possible, if they've been able to either hire an agency or learn it themselves, um, and try to just build out very specific responsive ads to specific products. Get the details matter to differentiate yourself. The more time they're investing in differentiation and detail work in that type of platform, and in Meta as well, and who they know their customers or they think they are, think the demographic is very important because otherwise you're just what they say, what is it, the spray and pray, yeah. But you are picking up learnings as well, right? You're picking up learnings, and analytics has to be in place, and that's going to save you money having that free program plugged in already.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think
so
that's great feedback. Like it's so important. I always start with this is your foundation, the website. We do 3 phase. Foundation is the first phase of that, where if your website's not dialed in to convert traffic, then you're just wasting your time everywhere else.
yeah, yeah, because it's leakage. It's like a dam leaking water, right? It's leakage that needs to be plugged up
And it's going to
before.
break.
There's no reason to brand your company, agencies may come in and offer we have this 3-pronged plan where we're going to get your name out there, but you have 0 Yelp reviews, for example, service
Oh,
company
when
or
businesses
whatever.
hire social media agencies to manage their 10-person follower, that's not going to generate any revenue. It drives me crazy because they think that posting every day makes a difference when no one sees it.
No, it's not. And you have to already have had a good reputation to a certain extent online,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you had to be able to do that consistently and have trust. You have to have already had that presence on there. That may take years, right? To you hit the hump until you hit the hump and really get past what 80% the 80% of the businesses fail. You get past that hump, assuming you've got a little bit of reviews there. You have to focus on those at some point, inevitably, before you even think about starting to try to get your name out there in a branding perspective from top of funnel, so to speak.
But it'd be so cool just to hire a branding firm and then get posted everywhere for
Yeah,
thirty
right.
thousand dollars a month,
Oh man, I
and then
think
bring us in as
a lot
awareness
more fun.
generating marketers, not conversion, because awareness is so much easier to publish. To get display out there and everything going to generate awareness is so much easier than do a conversion campaign.
Oh my gosh, yes, it is. And those are big companies that come in to a traditional agency in Fifth, on Fifth Avenue, and then they're hiring digital agencies to just burn $90,000 on this
Sign me up.
demographic, and they give you
Sign me
two
up.
or three. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
2 or 3 different uh, constraints or the demographic targeting,
Yeah.
right?
So easy. Just
Yeah,
sign me up for that money.
yeah, man.
Like
That's a good relationship to
it's a
have.
good gig.
Hey, perhaps, yeah, yeah, it is. Uh, Call it easy money, but I'm sure there's a lot of
There's some accountability too. I used to do it at MySpace. We would burn. We get so say the NBA did a takeover. They give us X amount to generate awareness, and it was just like, okay, go find the cheapest traffic I can possibly find with this portion of the budget. And I was like, this is so easy. They're just burning it. But I think we say like people need to know that you got a new business. It's going to be hard to leverage and generate leads for it in the beginning because you got no brand presence, no brand awareness, no brand credibility. and coming out the gate is hard to establish that, and it takes time.
Yeah, I mean, when
Um,
you're jumping in as in the digital marketing, you almost are having to help in a consultant capacity, because what do those leads matter to that person? And they're going to come back to you and say, I can't close these. These leads aren't closing. These are crap, right? And it's your fault because you're giving them the wrong leads, giving him or her the wrong leads. So, working on and just, using your intuition, your, help. How are you pricing this? How is it, how are you making yourself at least remember, or memorable rather, so you get a repeat customer, right?
right.
Uh, Things
Can you
like
make
that.
me a viral video?
Yeah, if you can make you a viral video, if I could make me a viral video for you or make you one, I would have already made one for me.
Right. I love that question. Sure. Yeah, we'll make you a viral video. We don't do video, but like ask them to make you a viral video. See if they say yes, and then don't trust them after they don't do it. Um, no, great information. So, where can people connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, they can connect on me. I think on LinkedIn is really the best way. Um, I'm, I guess, what they call a premium member of LinkedIn.
Oh, fancy.
It's an elite class, I know,
Yeah,
and
you're up there.
yeah, I guess that's what they say.
Anyone can talk to you.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. That's what they tell me, but we'll see. No, but I definitely would love to answer any questions that folks have. People that know me, they know I'm an open book, especially when it comes to these kinds of things that can save folks money.
Mhm.
And I'm always happy to engage, because I am passionate about this stuff. This is not only is it my bread and butter, but it's helped me really put a lot of other streams of income, in place, and it's rooted in learning digital marketing. So, but LinkedIn, uh, uh, Gerard Mendoza, Gerard Mendoza, Mendoza.
Just like in the
Um,
screen.
yes, sir. That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate your time.